So we're in a year of living powerfully, and so that's our theme for the year. And in this living powerfully, what we get to do is much like one of my mentor friends, Louise Hay, says, we can extend a hand, and people can either pull us down, or we can be pulled down by circumstances, situations, or conditions, or we can choose to be lifted up by that same extended hand. So, and we can extend that from ways that we're feeling inside and from any resistances that we want to reduce today, any resistances to change. And so I know that change is that constant, and that there is that one presence and one power, which is always the constant. It's always there for us to rely upon as we extend this hand, and to know that, yes, we can be lifted up by that same very hand, and we can accept that invitation to rise up. So we have the top 5 resistances to change, and their remedies. And there's a positive psychologist whose name is Ronald Alexander. And he has a book called Wise Mind, Open Mind. And he gives us 5 remedies. So those 5 jars of Gatorade, we know that we're going to be lit up by these 5 areas where it can really free up our energy. And what I notice is that when I'm working one-on-one with people, when I'm working in groups, when we have classes here, there's some resistance to change. Maybe I'm the only one. Yes? So there's usually sometimes it's hidden. There's usually some hidden resistances, or there's some that are very apparent, and we become clear. So we can make that effort to, in essence, not sabotage whatever efforts, whatever energy wants to come through in a higher vibration, in a higher way in our life. And so there's 5 hindrances, which it's common. It's a common experience is that we just encountered these 5 hindrances. So we may experience more than one at a time. It's not like they just come single file. Wouldn't that be nice? It may be that there's negative thoughts, that there's emotions, that we have feelings that are inside, and then we have emotions, the way that our feelings show up, that may hinder or delay, or we may be resisting something. So we may have sensations too, and it may be that it keeps us stuck in some unwholesome mindset or some heart space that wants to open up. So out of these thoughts and out of these feelings, there's a remedy that'll help us shift. You ready for the remedies? Yes? Those divine elixirs that are already infused within us. So here's a brief explanation, and I encourage folks to include meditation in the practice of this. And David Sayun, who's one of our board members, has a group meditation on the 3rd Wednesday of every month from 6 to 7 right here, same station and channel. He's in the flow, and it helps with our clarity, it helps with our calmness, and expands our consciousness. So know that there's opportunities for us to dive in. Dr. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of the Science of Mind, which is a guide for spiritual living in a movement called New Thought and Ageless Wisdom, he writes in his book called Richer Living, he says that change is the law of human experience. For only God is permanent. The infinite mind forever is conceiving new ideas, and there is an infinite law that is forever producing new forms. So we have this thing called love, we have this thing called life, which is then producing new forms. And so by our ways of mindfulness, as we become clear in our lives, we get to have this energy change and transform, and hopefully with gentle breakthroughs and in gentle ways. And so these top 5 resistances, in essence, we can allow their remedies to just be like a guiding light, like that which is navigating our life path. So hindrance number 1 is we may have a wanting mind. We may be coming from a place of wanting or not having. Our wanting mind has those qualities of either grasping or wanting to cling to something. We cause ourselves perhaps some suffering or heartache for something that seems to lie outside of us, outside of our grasp. And it may be something that, it might be money, it might be a job, it might be a health condition that we're not experiencing optimal health. It could be that we've had some power, some sense of powerfulness in our life that we've lost. We may be experiencing a relationship that we've lost. So we have losses, and yes, that change is happening. And it could be that we have never had whatever that is that we strongly desire, so that we want to grasp it, we want to cling to it, we want to reach out to it. And so it could be that reaching out that pulls us down, or it could be that reaching up, which we can rise up and out. So the remedy for this, and it's kind of sometimes a paradox to explore because we're equipped with all of the capabilities to explore this and to have this and to be this. We can have this, in essence, antidote for whatever that pain might be or whatever that suffering, that sense of wanting might be. It could be that we have that satisfaction already and that we just need to shine a light in that area, knowing that we're already in our wholeness, that we're already wholesome, that we're already in the oneness, that we have that field that is there, that field that is transforming, that is that elixir. And so the remedy is we have this experience, we set our intent, we feel it fully and know it, that we have an experience of satisfaction. Instead of wanting like we don't have it, we get to experience even more and more satisfaction and fulfillment. Instead of our lives being filled full of stuff and things and activities, we get to have fulfillment. Hindrance number 2 is that sometimes we clearly wish to hold on to some illusion that life ought to be perfect and that we're not enough where we are right now. We're not in that satisfactory place. We think about what we ought to have achieved, what we ought to have acquired. We might be miffed, we might be frustrated, we might be confused. We might be wondering what went wrong, or we might see things as that there's something wrong. We may also find ourselves feeling envious. We might feel that there's something standing in the way of our career. There might be something standing in the way, or it feels like there's something tough or rough about a relationship. There might be something that feels like an obstacle in our happiness, in our fulfillment, in whatever that healthy way of being is, and balance in our life. So as we look at hindrance number 2, the remedy for that is, guess what? Acceptance and clarity. Acceptance and allowing that which is that changing nature, that divine nature of unfoldment, that expression that moves us into the greater yet to be, our greater good, the highest and best that wants to unfold for us. And what it does is it releases those negative thoughts or thoughts that may be holding us back, or whatever that is that we've thought that we have this unchanging expectation. It's like that one definition of perfect is all that there is. And as I realize that, yes, I'm complete. I am complete already, and I'm whole as this spiritual being, that I know that there is all that there is, and I am part of that allness in every way, being part of the allness and the oneness. So what I know is that every moment, no matter how perfect, there is that ability to accept whatever's happening, to come from a place of acceptance and embracing and allowing whatever is happening in the present moment. And so it brings us out of the past. It brings us out of that anticipation of the future, but it brings us into the now, and that is the remedy. I was at a conference recently, and there were some neuroscientists in this room of 200 people, and just reaffirming that, yes, we all are spiritual beings, and that we have these experiences, and what we're made up of is we have these capabilities to have those good feelings. And there's things that we can do to have those good feelings, like being in community here, being in meditation, doing some of our visioning work that we do. We do our vision boards that recently the women's group did. We can have that place and set the tone for those things to happen and to come to fruition. And so I was walking with one of my friends who was at this conference, and I used to partner up with her, and we used to help facilitate quality conversations wherein people could make their best choices and come to their own best agreement about their families. And it was beautiful to be walking around Bell Rock and just exploring how our lives are. A couple years later, I hadn't seen her for a couple years. And she says, I showed my now husband, John, this Post-it. On this Post-it in 2003, I wrote the qualities of what I was becoming to be his companion. He didn't know it. I didn't know who he was at the time. But I became those qualities to be the best companion that I can be. And I showed him this Post-it. It may not be on that vision board, but yes, we can go home in my car. It's kind of like the dashboard of an airplane. And I have all these Post-its, and they're usually sometimes here, but oftentimes they're on my dashboard. And so Rhonda and John had the space to become those qualities of the companion that they desired to have in their life. They found that they got to accept and allow and become clear on those qualities to become the very best companion. And what that does is that gets us out of the story of the hindrance of number 3, which it's the story of our sleeping mind. Instead of being awake and aware and alert and alive, we may be asleep in some areas of our life. And it talks about depression versus expression. And some of those neuroscientists that I heard talked about the chemicals that we have, and those positive chemicals that can move us from our sympathetic flight or flight system into our parasympathetic comfort and relaxation and moving forward energy that we can create because we have all of those qualities within us. And so with hindrance number 3, there's a sleeping mind. And pardon my French, but it's also called ennui. It's not Henry, the one who's the chef at the French restaurant, but it's E-N-N-U-I, ennui. And what that means is that there's a sleeping mind, or there's some apathy, or some fatigue, or some stress, being stressed, or heavy burdened, or laden by maybe some drowsiness or sluggishness. Or there might be something in our area that we're discontent, or that there's some weariness. So that ennui, what we do is, because we have the remedy for ennui is we have the vitality of our thoughts and feelings that, yes, we can have rise up and out in our life. So the remedy for our sleeping mind is vitality. And it could be that maybe we have an area where we need more nutrition, or we have anxiety and we need a little more exercise, which then has those responses to move us physically from those depressive thoughts into an expressive way of being. So exercise, in essence, actually alters our way of being in the world. It has us be in a more wholesome place. And so it's even in the traditional Taoist and Buddhist, there's walking meditations where there's just a back and forth of walking, and it gets that energy flowing, and there's a mindfulness, there's a way of being mindful and heart-filled. And so what that does is it shifts our sensations. It shifts our thinking. It shifts our feeling. It moves us into action. Hindrance number 4, we can also reduce restlessness, and our topic today is working with the restless mind. So we have that movement, much like creative artists have. It gets us out of that feeling stagnant or stuck. So artists talk about having that itch or that urge in that creativity. It might have been on a Post-it. It might be on a vision board. It might be in our affirmations or our journaling. It might be, I was talking with someone this morning about art and music that energizes and gets us going. And it's quite different. If you remember listening to the songs we have here, it gets us out of that restlessness. It gets us in that movement of that harmony in our life. And so sometimes when we feel discomfort, sometimes when we're not focused and have our attention on the divine nature that is within us, when we're ready to move into action, sometimes we're unfocused, and there's that place where we desire to move into a more creative state. And yes, that takes some focus and our attention and our energy. And it may be that we're moving from one activity to the next as we multitask in our multi-dimensional lives. And what we can do is realize even more sense of our well-being by eliminating these hindrances and turning up the volume on our flow. So in summary, we have remedies for hindrances of wanting. We have some illusory thinking. We have some sleeping mind. We have some restlessness. And then sometimes we have doubt. With wanting, we want to move into the satisfaction of this moment. With illusory thinking, we have acceptance and clarity that we can realize. With our sleeping mind, we get to wake up with more vitality and more energy. With restlessness, we get to have some mindfulness and some relaxation. And we're in a month of meditation, so how appropriate is that? And then with doubt, you ready for this? You ready to be curious about this? With doubt, we have some curiosity and we have some appreciation about the mystery of life. And there's this art of uncertainty sometimes, that we're in the mystery as we move forward and know that there is a divine pattern which is unfolding. And that in partnering with the divine, we can have the newness in our life. We can have that which is co-creating through us and as we move in that place. Like Rhonda and John, Rhonda put it on a Post-it. And yes, it came to fruition. In partnering with the divine, we become a wider portal for spirit to express in new and wonderful ways. We also have completion with whatever that is in our past. When we have that hindrance that feels like doubt, what we want to do is become curious. We want to become more aware. We want to wake up and know that, yes, there is this mystery of life, and that there is a high resolve. There is that which is the highest and best that is aspiring to express through us. And like Rhonda and John, we have to be what we want to be in order to bring it to fruition. We get to be those qualities. We know that we become that companion as we partner with the divine, whether it's in the area of our health, our relationships, our finances, our peace of mind. Otherwise, we're creating out of the consciousness that brought us to where we are. And so that's one of the reasons for the number one hindrance, is that we get to be even more in the present moment and have that sense of satisfaction even more fully. So we need to be the very thing that we want to attract. We need to be the very thing that we want to attract. One more time. We need to be the very thing that we want to attract. And so it's a universal principle that we have in our New Thought, Ageless Wisdom philosophy. We have that intent for deep transformation as a mental equivalent. We hold out there that image, like the Post-it, like the vision board, like our visioning practice. And we open up that space in consciousness. And we step into that, and we reach out, and we rise up. So in this power of meditation, we have a book of the month by Dr. Edward Fullion, who's the senior minister at the Center for Spiritual Living, Santa Rosa. And it has some wonderful stories. And it talks about having that comfort and that relaxation wherein this creativity can take place. And it gives us a general feeling of comfort, wherein sometimes we have frenzied lives and we get to rise up and out and have those calming hormones, have those calming places in our spirit, mind, and body that maybe it slows down our breathing for a while. We get to really slow down and center down. That way we can have that curiosity, we can have that acceptance, we can have that place which allows us to be in that heart space. So hindrance number 5 is doubt. So we may have some general cynicism that's in our culture. And doubt leaves room for positive anticipation. It's a tool. It's actually the 5th agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz, because we can use it as a tool for inquiry and curiosity. We can get out of that skepticism, that cynicism, that pessimism, whatever that is, of that cultural belief, and rise up using doubt as a tool. And there cannot be true joy or contentment without us experiencing satisfaction in this very moment. We want to be in this very present moment as this fulfilled energy, and knowing that there is that transition and the doubt that happens and those waves of whatever that might be, of endings in our life, of being kind of in a neutral place when there's before a new beginning. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in February, about how we can have those smooth, silky smooth transitions in our life, where we're learning and where we're growing and where we have new attitudes and where we have new outlooks, which then translate into whatever that clearing process is. And we want to have that sense of coming to completion with whatever that is in our life. We want to not be in that cultural thought of saying, oh, don't cry over spilled milk and just move along. Or let bygones be bygones, or whatever, like it discounts having that savoring of that meaning and that value where we come to completion with whatever it is in that in our life. We can be in this clearing process and knowing that there is this meaning and this value in hindrance number 5, where we use doubt as a tool to open up our creativity, to open up those windows of consciousness, and to know that we are reflecting our own attitude of empowerment, not just the cultural attitudes that we've taken on. And do you remember the story about the 2 monks? They were walking across a rainy place, and they were getting from one bank to the other bank, walking across a river. And it was raining, and it was muddy, and this stream was really choppy. And they saw this lady who also needed to cross. And one of the monks went ahead and he picked up the lady and put her on his shoulder, and he carried her across to the other side of the stream. And then they went ahead and they headed on up to their temple in silence. And it wasn't until later that evening that the one monk said to the other monk, you know, what you did earlier today went against what we believed, went against our vows. We don't want to be with women. We want to be in our own solace. We want to be in our own solitude. And he really read the other monk a riot act. And the monk who was receiving the riot act said, I picked her up, I set her down on the other side of the stream, set her down, let her go. And you're the one who's still carrying her. Yeah. So what we want to do is become complete with areas in our life, and then to proceed on in our silence, in our stillness of our guiding light, of that which beckons our hearts, and to know that we're not hindered, blocked, or delayed by anything that we're carrying around. To know that, yes, we're set free to be on that other side. And in this present moment. So out of curiosity, out of that appreciation of the mystery of life, out of that high resolve, out of that knowingness that we can, yes, be in a place of satisfaction in our life. We can be in this place that is of this connection. We can be around positive people. We can have these opportunities which provide us this place where we can yet then be set free of this energy and know that there is that wholehearted acceptance of this present moment. So what I know is that there is this acceptance, there is this light, there is this place where, yes, we are unhindered, where we are set free, where we accept that place of transformation, and knowing that we have that place that carries us. You know, the monk said, I only carried her across the water. You're still carrying her around. And much like Rhonda and John with the Post-it, we know that we can set our intent for that experience of what we do want to carry with us as we move forward in this day. So I know that much like Louise Hay, who says we extend a hand and we can allow things to pull us down, or we can be pulled up. We can extend our hand, we can extend our heart. Are you ready for the change? You ready for your change? Ready for that heart space to expand? Okay, good. So I want you to go ahead and say with me, today I am open and receptive to my highest good. Today I am open and receptive to my highest good. All right, so we're open and ready to receive in full acceptance of this. So I invite us to not only say, "Go Broncos," but let's go ahead and move into prayer with that sense of levity and lightness, and knowing that, yes, as we embrace the wholeness of our totality, the wholeness, the oneness, the wellness, and taking a deep and profound breath right here and turning within for a moment of inner celebration. There is so much to celebrate right here in this moment, and trusting and knowing that, yes, all is well. There is the well-being which rises up from within us. That spirit is in action already. It is the action which is in the fulfillment of a divine ideal. It is that which is fully expressed as I am connected in this presence, knowing that there is this connection of wholeness and wellness, the wholesomeness and the wholehearted living of this heart space. And I know that it shows up in beautiful ways, and in kindness, in compassion, in generosity, in flow. And trusting and realizing that, yes, there is love, there is joy, there is peace in my life. And it shows up as beauty. It shows up as resourcefulness. It shows up as the divine in action. In the full acceptance of this, I extend gratitude and appreciation in this mystery of this thing called life, and allow this place to just grace itself with so much ease in a silky smooth way, in so much gratitude in this beautiful day. So I release this word knowing it is creative. It is that which is responsive, and it is that which I am responding to and hearing and listening to. As I release this word, knowing it is done, it is complete, it is whole, and so be it, and so it is.